Hi, and welcome to Spoonful of Strength. I'm Rachel, and I live with multiple sclerosis, type 1 diabetes, and a few other diagnoses that keep life interesting.
And I'm Tina. I am a fibromyalgia warrior with chronic back issues and a proud stage 4 cancer survivor. We're sisters, and together we're here to support, inspire, and connect. So if you're new here, the spoon theory explains how we navigate life with limited energy or spoons.
And we're thrilled to share that we've been ranked number 30 on FeedSpot's Top 100 Chronic Illness podcast list. So grab a spoon and let's dig into stories, tips, and a whole lot of strength.
Welcome to this week's episode of Spoonful of Strength. This morning, we'll be talking about self-esteem and the challenges that can have through chronic illness. And then after that, we will have Nicole is joining us, and she's going to be sharing her story about living with gastroparesis. And Rachel, can you believe that this is episode number 50?
Number 50. I feel like we started off season 1 with a bang, and we're just churning them out, way overdoing it. But I feel like 50 in less than a year, that's a pretty good pace. I can't believe it. I think it's flown by.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like we'll be coming up on a year. When did we start? April?
Yep, mid-April is when we
Mid-April?
recorded our first episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. And I every episode I love meeting our spoonies. Every single one of them are just amazing human beings, and it's very fulfilling for me to be able to offer this space for everybody to come on and share their story.
Yeah. And we've already got such a long wait list we're probably going to be booked right now through the end of the summer. So it's really exciting to see so many people wanting to come on and waiting for their chance to spread awareness and about their illness.
How have you been doing this week?
Pretty good. Recovering well. Finally feeling like I'm getting back into the swing of things. And I've got my surgeries coming up in about 4 days. So trying to get as much done and looking forward to getting that done and over with and behind me. And so yeah, I've just this weekend's going to be busy trying to catch up on things that I've missed over the last week or so, and getting ready to get that behind me. How about you? How you been doing?
Good. Still plugging along at physical therapy, having a little bit of regression and trying to come figure out what else is going on back wise. But I mean, at least I'm not dealing with the sciatic pain, so I'll take the I'll take the other issues and the slight regression and over that excruciating pain that I was dealing with earlier towards the end of last year.
Well, you dealt with that for so long. Like it's probably normal to have a little bit of regression. I mean, it took months and months and months to get the pain under control.
Yeah.
It's probably going to take a while to reverse that.
Yeah. And I think that there was looking back, now we're focusing on my SI joints, which is that sacroiliac joint that's right there, your hips, where your hip bone and your pelvis and your leg bones go. And that's where I've started having issues again this week. But I feel like that's been going on for a while. It's just that all the other stuff kind of masked it.
Yeah.
But I'm still doing what I need to do. Waiting to hear. Yesterday was my last one that I was approved through for insurance, so we've had to put forth requests for more appointments as we try to continue to get me over this. So hopefully I might actually have a week off from physical therapy next week. Which will be kind of nice. So
Yeah. I had physical therapy yesterday, and he's like, well, you want to keep going because we've got plenty to do. And I'm like, I have been doing this on and off since like October. And then before that, I was doing the physical therapy for my shoulder. And I'm like, I need a break. Like, I understand that I need to keep moving, but even just a month break to focus on getting the surgery over and letting my body heal from that and the flu, and then finding out what is going to come from the biopsy and being able to deal with that, and then I'll get back into it, but I kind of want to see what's going on first before we keep chugging along. And I think it's normal to get, what did you call it the other day? Just physical therapy burnout, where
Yeah.
it's just a lot. And I didn't, in this last couple months, I didn't really gain much, but
Mhm.
they've told me pretty much that the object is not to gain muscle or to gain a lot of strength, but it's to try and keep it from getting worse. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I'll once I get through this next couple weeks, then I'll be ready to get back in with a better attitude and a fresh start that might, you know, make a difference. So, well, let's talk about what we're here to talk about, which is self-esteem. And I think this is a loaded subject. At first, I was like, what are we going to talk about? And I really started to sit on it for a little bit. I realized just how much self-esteem can waver in the midst of chronic illness.
It can be hard because I know you feel, especially in those early days of diagnosis, is you feel like you're losing part of yourself.
Hmm. I think that when you're first diagnosed, there's so many unknowns about what the disease will do that a lot of times it affects the way that you see your body and the way that you see what your body can do.
Mhm. And just having to make adjustments in
Hmm.
the lifestyle that you're so used to can also really have an impact on how you feel about yourself. Like, I know that you've talked in the past about the struggles when you had to leave the workforce.
Hmm. Yeah, that was a big blow. Um, and looking back, I see it a little bit different, but at the time, um, I got a lot of my self-worth from going to work and doing a good job and realizing that people were depending on me, um, that I was an instrumental part to this company, and that fed my self-esteem, I think, more than I realized. So when you go from that to a diagnosis and then trying to continue to work at that pace and realizing that my body is not letting me do what I need to do to be successful. And my doctor was really heavily saying, I don't feel comfortable with you traveling when you're having bouts of weakness and numbness in your feet. I don't like the fact that you can be working and then get a wave of fatigue and be 2 hours away from home. And the job that I did was so demanding that it wasn't like I could leave. There were times when I just couldn't up and leave. And
Right.
so leaving that and getting into just a complete stop of that really hit the fact of who am I and what what does this mean for me? Where am I going to get this feeling and this feeling of success without that?
You ended up going into therapy for somebody to help assist you with making that realization that your job is not your identity.
Hmm. I think To be completely honest, and I've never said this before to you or to anybody, but my self-esteem was so affected by leaving work. This was maybe 6 months after I left. And there was a time where, I was really irritable. I wasn't sure where I was in this world and what I was, going to be. And Ed and I were arguing quite a bit. And every argument took me into a tailspin of, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not deserving to be here. And the straw that broke the camel's back was the one and only time in the last 25 years that Ed said, I want a divorce. And it
Mm-hmm.
was that where I said, I know I'm not the person that I was. And why am I feeling like this? And feeling as if I was pushing him away because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the person that I used to be. And I was so angry at what had been taken from me that I immediately reached out and found a local therapist in our town. And it was the best decision I ever made because it saved our marriage. It saved my life, honestly, with the way that my depression spiraled. And that was the turning point, is him being like, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And that was the blow I needed to be able to say, I know I'm not behaving in a way that is loving towards him. So I've got to fix myself first so that then we can fix our marriage. And that was
Mm-hmm.
the turning point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And a very important turning point, obviously.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
those are long-term listeners, and even if you weren't tuning into us during season one, um, go back to and listen to that. He actually came onto our podcast and talked about being a
Yeah.
caregiver and how difficult that time period was. Not on necessarily on it. It was difficult on him because of him watching you go through that and not knowing what to do.
Yeah. And that
Um,
was very early. That was maybe episode 4 or 5. Um, I would actually say that if we brought him on here today, it would be a completely different episode because of the
mhm,
things that have happened in the last year. And he has put, had to go through so much more just in the last year. Um, but through therapy, and I still see my therapist about once a month. I recently went back after about a year, just with
mhm,
all the changes and everything. But I think that um, again, Karis in the last episode was talking about, well, I don't have a mental illness. Do I need to
right.
see a therapist? And I look at it this way: as your life is being turned upside down by this chronic
Mhm.
illness, and that it really is helpful to have somebody kind of guide you through those emotions.
Yeah, yeah, because you may have the mindset that, oh, I'm dealing with it fine, and then one day you're going to realize that you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Or or that it is impacting, something will sneak up, even just, that it's so easy for that negative self-talk.
With your between your cancer journey and dealing with colitis, one of the things that I feel like with self-esteem can be weight fluctuations. And
Yeah.
I have been on both sides where I have lost 50 pounds and was felt very unhealthy. And I've also gained weight and ran into self-esteem with that. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, and like you, I've been on both ends of the extreme, and I may have mentioned it in passing, but I know we haven't really gotten into, I actually had weight loss surgery like 17 years ago. It's been a long time and
Yeah.
lost 100 pounds. Um, and the mindset of people, it's an interesting mindset of, you know, how people interact with you when you're overweight. And,
Hmm.
they try to say, oh, you just, exercise more or watch what you eat or, and they probably know, I feel some people, or, unfortunately, a lot of people with weight that are overweight may get bullied or, um, teased, harassed, not so nice things, but people don't realize that it can be just as frustrating when you can't put weight on. Like,
Hmm.
telling, going up and telling somebody, you're not going to go up to most people are not going to go up to somebody and go, wow, you are really overweight and should probably have maybe you should just eat less. But people will be like, how you really need to try to eat a little bit more, with
Yeah.
no understanding of where that is coming from. And I look at I think in the moment I was just feeling so miserable that I didn't really realize how bad I looked. Like I dropped during that colitis, I dropped down even lower than the chemo weight. But like looking
Mm.
back at some of the pictures, like we had a wedding that we went to, and during that time frame, I just realized how unhealthy I really looked. Like I get where people now say, you look so healthy now, you look fantastic,
Hmm.
and not realizing that back then they were probably like, oh my God, she looks so awful because
Hmm.
she's just so skinny and she's not putting weight on and she's not looking well. Um, so both ends of those, are equally frustrating.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you look at your body, and you realize the scar, you have the scars and they they don't really bother me too much though, because I always say the scars tell a story. And the story is that I'm still here to show those scars
Mhm.
off.
I think, there's been times where more so in the past when I was going through therapy, where my self-talk was so much different than it is now. It was more of, I am broken, my body is failing. Um, I don't know what I did to deserve this. And I honestly feel like the biggest change that was made in my mental attitude was made by reversing the self talk. And whether it be looking at scars or whether it be looking at, wow, my body has been through a lot and I'm still here. So instead of I'm
Mhm.
broken, it's I am resilient, I am
Yeah.
strong, and I have been through a lot and I'm showing up every day. And I feel like that was the biggest change for me, was that I changed the way I was looking at things, and in more of a powerful sense versus more of a victim
Hmm.
way of talking to myself. Because
Right.
I would never go up to somebody and say, oh, you have
Mm.
MS. Boy, you're really broken. Like, look at you. What,
Right.
what are you doing using that cane or walker? You know, I would never even think about that. But those are the things that I said to myself.
Hmm.
And it's so amazing how we don't understand that we have to be as gentle and kind to ourselves as we are to the people we love.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's, why it's just so important to treat yourself with the compassion that you treat other people with.
Hmm.
In fact,
Yeah.
you should be treating yourself more compassionately because
Yeah.
you're with you're with yourself 24/7. You're not necessarily with everybody else 24/7.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. D- And one of the things, talking about self-talk and changing mindset, um, did you ever feel when you were going through a particularly hard health time in your life of feeling like being a burden? Because that was also something that I had a hard time with. And as things are progressing and I'm relying on Ed for more and more, I'm realizing that it's getting harder to not feel that way. Um, of feeling like I am a burden and he has to help me do this and he has to help me do this and I feel guilty for not having dinner on the stove, but it's a frozen pizza tonight or whatever it might be. Did you ever have those types of feeling,
yeah.
with your illnesses?
Sure, absolutely. Especially when I'm very pretty independent person, do things on my own. And then to suddenly have to ask for help
Hmm.
when I tend to be the helper, not the helpee. That was pretty hard
Hmm.
to be okay with realizing that I have to put myself first
Yeah.
because again, that's part of the identity that you established for yourself, or at least for me, is I made sure the house, even though both of us at the time were working outside of the house full time, I was still the one in the home front that pretty much kept things going, the cleaning, the although I've Dave does the laundry. I always give him kudos for doing the laundry because
Mm.
because I hardly ever do the laundry, but the grocery shopping, the meal planning, the cooking, the cleaning. Um, when Brittany was still living here with us, and before she had her license, move the chauffeur, everything, everything for everybody else. And so then suddenly when you can't do everything for everybody else like you're used to, that also impacts your self-esteem because now you're like, well, what am I doing for everybody then?
Right. I have to tell you a funny story about when I was, because I'm a lot like you in that I, normally will push through and do the things that need to be done. But this influenza kicked me into a place I haven't been before, and I really had to rely on Ed to help with meals because I couldn't stand for longer than
Mm.
a minute or so without feeling tired. And also I didn't really want to fix their food being ill, um
Right.
he fixed dinner one night and I was in the bedroom laying down and he waits until the next day and he says, well, last night's dinner wasn't very good. And Ed's a really good cook. He can make pretty much anything.
Hmm.
And I said, well, what happened? And he goes, well, I couldn't find the hamburger. I was making spaghetti and I couldn't find the hamburger. I said, well, it's right in the freezer. Like, you could have asked me. And he goes, well, I found some frozen cube steak and I chopped it up into pieces and tried to cook it like hamburger. And he said it was so nasty and it was so bad. And poor Jaron was like, it was bad, mom. He's like, he said it was
Oh
so hard
no.
and so
Rough. Yeah.
rubbery. And,
Oh.
but back in the day, I would have not even thought about just letting them figure out dinner. I would have gotten up and pushed myself
Hmm.
beyond what I could. Hey, Spoonful of Strength listeners. I know we've talked about nutrition on the podcast, Well, we can't forget about our furry friends.
That's right, Rachel. Our pets deserve the same love and care when it comes to what they eat. That's why we're excited to tell you about Space Dog treats sold by my business, Magical Mutts Creations.
These treats are made with all natural ingredients crafted right here in the USA and free from unnecessary additives. My dogs love the Salmon Galaxy bites. They do a happy dance every time they hear the bag crinkle.
Supporting Magical Mutts means supporting a chronic illness-owned business that truly cares. Treat your pup to healthy, nutritious snacks they'll love.
Visit magicalmuttscreations.com today and discover the magic.
Because our furry friends also deserve healthy treats.
Well, let me ask you this. Social media has become a lot bigger when it comes to chronic illness. Do you
Mm-hmm.
find that people who share their stories of their chronic illness, I'm not as open as a lot of people are. Um, I still have self-esteem issues where, putting my face on the Instagram and showing my face, which has bags under my eyes and not feeling pretty enough. And so I don't put my story out there quite as much, but I see these people who are so brave that they put their faces out there and they tell the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I wonder how that helps their self-esteem. And I've heard some people say, oh yeah, I get hate comments. And luckily, the Spoonful of Strength, we've never gotten a hateful comment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so thankful, but I'm ready for that if it comes. But I wonder what your thoughts are on the people that put their lives out there to share with everybody and how that affects their self-esteem, good and bad.
I think part of those that put themselves out there is, and it's helped me, as I was going through my cancer treatments and everything, every time I was there having a treatment, I would post a selfie to help raise awareness of, what people go through during their cancer treatments. I think part of that revolves around, and we've talked about it a couple of times, of finding your purpose, or not necessarily your purpose, but finding a positive within what you're going through. So
Mm-hmm.
by putting it out there, by sharing, um, I still, even though, I haven't had any treatments since, when did I stop? 2023, end of 2023 was when I stopped my Keytruda treatments. But I still share my story, and I still get people, every couple months or so that reach out and say, I just saw your story and you're so inspiring. And that, I think, helps my self-esteem a lot, in the sense of
Mm-hmm.
going, okay, it was hard to share that vulnerable side, but at the same time, you realize that by sharing that and showing people that it's okay to be vulnerable, um, that almost brings a bit of a purpose through to what you're going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we did an episode on finding your purpose, like Tina said. So go check that one out. But I went through it, and you've gone through it too, where whether it be puzzles or crafting or support groups, something to kind of give yourself purpose of, especially when you're not working, having a lot of time on your hands, giving yourself something that you can keep busy with and not feel like you're always dwelling on the
Mhm.
chronic illness. One last thing I wanted to talk about is navigating self-esteem when your body changes. And we've talked about weight, but as far as like progressing, and I've gone
Mhm.
through the last 6 months feeling like my mobility is rapidly progressing and wondering how fast this is going to continue or what can I do to stop it, and just feeling like you're in a body that, I mean, I'm 47 years old. I should be able to get up, hop in the car, run to the grocery store and get my groceries and come home. And I have not gone in to a store and gotten groceries, like a week's worth of groceries, in well over a year. I can go in and get a few things, but nothing, my body is, I'm 47. My body feels like it's in its 70s or 80s because it does take me a moment to get up off the chair. I can't walk at a fast pace for fear of losing my balance. There are a lot of things, the aches and the pains that I'm having are not normal for somebody of my age. And it is a real hit to feel like I should not be feeling all of this pain. I should be able to do these things, and my body is not allowing me to do that. It does take a little bit of hit to the self-esteem.
Hmm. I can see that. I can
Yeah.
definitely see how that would, you know, um, and why it's important. I think in those situations where, life, nobody is stagnant in life. If
Mm,
you are, then what a boring life that is. So whether you have a chronic illness or not, life is, you're always changing throughout life. So,
mhm,
when you perhaps are feeling like you're losing a part of you, or, it's affecting your self-esteem, it's like, okay, well, what actually helps? What feeds it? And we're
mhm,
going to talk later. We have an episode later in this season on my favorite woo woo work, as I call it, is
mhm.
with working on your soul's purpose, and your realigning with your soul. um and I think that that's something that's just so important to kind of embrace what makes your soul happy.
Mhm.
And because if your soul is happy, then there's a connection with that self-esteem, and on a soul level.
Yeah. Yeah. That is going to be more of you heading that episode because I don't know a lot about that topic. And I know you're really excited, and I'm always really excited to learn more. And so that is, yeah, in a few weeks. And I'm really excited to learn about that because anything that can help you feel better about yourself while you're dealing with everything we have to deal with is just so important to find the happy version of yourself while you're being thrown life's lemons, you
Hmm.
know, how to turn
Yeah.
that around, make some lemonade. But yeah, well, we hope that you all who are listening that have a chronic illness and are battling the demons of uh, the mental load of chronic illness, just know how much you're worth it, and how strong and resilient you can be to get up every morning and battle the same thing every day. And so we thought this was a special topic because it's so important that we all realize just how empowering and strong we all are. I'm proud
Yeah.
of you, Tina.
And I am proud of you, Rachel.
Oh my gosh. It's going to get all sticky sweet for everybody.
I know. But yeah, it's hard. Self-esteem is a tough thing.
Mhm.
It's hard to gain it back when it starts losing. I fought for that for many, many years, and it had nothing to do with chronic illness. It just had to do everything to do with awful relationships that
Yeah.
chipped away at those. So I'm always a very, very big proponent for the importance of building your self-esteem. and because I know how hard it is to get it back.
Hmm. Yeah. It's 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 so much harder to rebuild that than it is to lose it.
Hmm.
Something or someone or the negative self-talk can easily strip away your self-esteem, and it takes a lot of work to rewire and retrain your brain to know your self-worth. And so we hope that you all know your self-worth, and if you've got that negative talk going on, then um, find some outlet, whether it be therapy or support groups or whatever it needs to be, to connect with people and to connect with your inner self, to realize the amazing people that we are.
Yep.
So
Let's go ahead and welcome in Nicole, and she is joining us. She was diagnosed with gastroparesis, and she is going to come aboard and talk to us and share her journey through the diagnosis and living a daily life with living with gastroparesis.
perfect. Let's bring her in.
Yep, bring her on in. Thank you so much for coming on to our podcast to share your journey with gastroparesis. So, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm 35 years old. I live on the East Coast of the US. I've been battling gastroparesis for 10 years now. I was shortly diagnosed in my late 20s. I'm a mother of two young little boys who are actually having a difficult time right now, with me being in and out of the hospitals and seeing how I am getting at home. So it's been a little tough with that.
Yeah.
Basically, I was actually in school before I got sick, for surgical technologist. I was a supervisor in a group home for medical and behavioral adults. I was a CNA, MA, EKG phlebotomist. I was pursuing the medical field. I had patients with feeding tubes and, you know, chronic illnesses and all types of other illnesses. And I would never thought one day, because I had needed my gallbladder removed, I would end up in this position today.
You said you've had this for 10 years, so let's go back to the beginning.
Yes.
Was it your gallbladder that kind of started up the gastroparesis? Like, what were
Yes.
the very first things that happened in this story?
So when I first had experience, I needed my gallbladder removed because I would experience nausea. I was experiencing pain, like a lot of acid reflux. I went to my local ER. I needed removed, and shortly after I had it removed, I started noticing I couldn't eat full meals. After a couple bites, I was throwing up. I was getting a lot of pain. I was rocking. I was losing weight without trying because I was heavy my whole life. I was almost 300 pounds. And I due to find out they damaged my vagus nerve while removing my gallbladder, and that's how I ended up with gastroparesis. I ended up doing a gastric emptying study that took 4.5 hours. I had those lovely radioactive eggs to toast in a cup of water, and it was just dreadful. It's just been a dreadful journey, to be completely honest. It's hard. It really
Hmm.
is. Because you look completely fine, but inside it's attacking your GI tract, and there's nothing much they really can do about it. And then
I
just
can't
after
imagine.
that, my gallbladder removed and being diagnosed. In the midst of that, I had three spinal fusions, which didn't help the gastroparesis because the opiates are like terrible for you, like for it. And it's just over the time, just losing the weight. I had so many procedures. Whatever they offered me, I would take. Medications, I tried so many. Some did give me bad side effects that I can't take them no more, like Reglan, for instance. I can't take Reglan or gabapentin. So it's really tough. It really is.
Now, you
And
mentioned two young children.
yes.
Did you go through your pregnancies after all of this?
So my oldest is not biologically mine. I've been caring for him since he's 8 months old. And my son, who I did carry, I had to have a lot of NSTs. I was high risk pregnancy. I always wanted to feel that connection, with human, I actually was pregnant. I never told my story about this before, but I actually was pregnant in 2022. I found out I didn't know. Six doctors in the ER told me I couldn't carry because of my gastroparesis, my malnutrition. I would have died with the baby, or I would have died and the baby would have lived. So it was risky. So I had to get a medical abortion, which is hard to talk about nowadays. But
Mhm.
that's something that gastroparesis affects. I can't have no children. They already told me that because of my malnutrition due to the gastroparesis. So it does affect a lot more than your GI tract. It affects you all
Mm.
over, unfortunately.
I'm so
Mhm.
sorry about that. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Can you kind of give us a little bit of lesson on what paresis is,
Yes.
for people who don't know what
Of
that
course.
is?
Yes, so when some people hear gastroparesis, they think, oh, acid reflux, gastritis, but it's a lot more than that. Unfortunately, gastroparesis is when your stomach is partially or completely paralyzed. That means when you eat, your food does not digest from the stomach. Your muscles do not contract, so your food just sits there. Could just and sits there and just think of it on a hot summer day. You leave a bag of McDonald's in your car and the food just heats and get nasty, and that's how I picture it. It's the stomach contents in our stomach because it's, you're warm, it's not moving, everything is just sitting there and you get pains. You can, get bullseye, but that's why you get very nauseous. You throw up the food whole sometimes because, like for me, I threw up food whole. It would never be digested. It would still be in whole chunks because my stomach is not digesting it. Um, and so it's a very complex, complicated disease. It is rare. There's very few treatments. There's very few medications. We are on the NORD list. There are some organizations to help, like GPAC for gastroparesis, that is out there, and also like spreading awareness, like I'm trying to do to help others who are it's more severe, also in situations that they don't know what to do. Like gastroparesis also is mainly seen in diabetic patients. That's where they commonly see is in type 2, type 1 diabetes, diabetic patients. And that's what they told me. And they're like, well, you're not diabetic. I was like, yes, mine's due to my vagus nerve, but they commonly see it in diabetic patients more than someone like they don't unknown or vagus nerve damage due to a surgery or medications.
I'm sitting here, I'm trying to imagine like not being able to pass your food and it's just sitting there.
It's
What are the some of the, other than obviously, your malnutrition and weight loss and things like that? What are some of the other larger or bigger dangers of this?
Um, the most that I know is right now is from malnutrition because everything could just stop not working
Mhm.
properly. Like for me, I went to my appointment yesterday, for instance, and they told me mine's severe, and now my gastroparesis is attacking my whole GI tract. So my esophagus, that's why I'm having the problem swallowing, my stomach, and my intestines now because I can't go poop. I can't push no more.
Hmm.
Right,
With laxatives.
right.
So it's just like I said, it's just a very complex disease, and the doctors, their specialists are learning with us because they don't know much about it either. So it's just bang heads a little bit, but it's what we know is just a very I only know just a little bit of that. Just that
Right.
malnutrition really can get to you. And don't like I can't lie also like it's like, your depression, the anxiety, the fear of going out to a restaurant and eating because you're afraid you're gonna throw up and make a big scene or have pain. It's just that just once you take a bite of food and then you just start feeling that pain and you start getting that nausea and you can't control it and you start fighting it and you can't fight it, it just comes back even more. Your body's like attacked at war with you with this disease, and it's just horrible. And I feel for people who are in a worse position than me. It's devastating. This has been out for 100 years. And it's just like, how come we don't have more answers than, your malnutrition, you need a feeding tube, and that's that. We can't help you no more. it shouldn't be like that with this illness at all.
You bring up a really good point because we talk a lot about the mental side of chronic illness. And I can imagine, I have stomach issues as well, nothing as severe as what you're going through, but could imagine there's a lot of mental anxiety about
Oh,
going
yes.
out to eat or eating in general. And so, how have you found to help with that anxiety? Is there anything that
So,
you do
yes.
that has been helpful?
Oh, yes. Monthly I see a psychiatrist, and then I talk to a therapist weekly who is specifically in with chronic illnesses. My gastroparesis page is actually my coping skill that's actually helping me along because I do suffer from severe depression and severe anxiety. Because of this, I have a fear going out in public. I isolate a lot. I put myself like in the corner because I feel like a burden most of my time because my family's like, what can I do? Or they're freaking out, and it's just like it's not helping. It's making everything worse in a way. It's just, sometimes we might not talk about it because we don't know how to talk about it because it's like, hey, a chronic illness is making us feel like this. And most of the times doctors will be like, oh, it's your depression, anxiety, but it really ain't. It's this disease is causing us to have depression, anxiety, even more so. But the most thing that I could say is definitely the therapy has definitely helped weekly. Talking to someone, the psychiatrist, keep it on top of my anxiety meds and my depression meds. And then my gastroparesis page, meeting everybody is huge for me because I have nobody, like I have no friends. So it's just me and my kids and my husband. And talking to other people has really helped me a lot because I don't feel alone no more. And I felt alone for a very, very long time.
Hmm. I think a lot of people deal with mental illness because of chronic illness because it's that feeling that you can't control what's going on
Yeah.
with your body. You can't
Yeah.
control the things that are happening, and that's really hard to deal with, you
Oh,
know.
yes.
Hmm.
I have
So,
nights where I've cried myself to sleep because I felt so alone or I felt lost with this disease. I felt like, what else can I do? Or these doctors don't know what to do with me anymore. And it's,
yeah.
the overthinking, I think it also gets a lot with this disease because your mind is just going because you're like, all those questions are going through your mind that you don't have answers for. But that also affects the depression, anxiety, your lack of sleep, because of depression, anxiety, or the fatige don't help the depression, anxiety also that comes in, and you have the brain fog, and it's just all of that comes in, and I feel like I feel like doctors shouldn't push that on patients, like blame it. I feel like they should help us more with that and understand like it is causing us mental illness, and it shouldn't be something that we should feel ashamed to talk about with them with at all. And that's one thing I love about my team, my care team, is that I can call them anytime and be like, hey, I feel depressed or I'm feeling really lost right now or I'm overthinking. And I have done that. And they call me right back and they're there on the phone with me. And I think that's one important thing for people to understand is don't be ashamed of depression or anxiety or anything. Like reach out. I've been in PCUs for SI, so I understand how deep depression can really get. So no shame, and people are there for you to reach out. I know there's numbers. There's even if you want to remain anonymous, there's help, and don't be ashamed. That's one thing I would love everybody to understand. Do not be ashamed of depression, anxiety, especially when it comes along with chronic illness.
Mm.
Hmm. Hmm. I think that a lot of people, that is one of the big things that they struggle with the most when it comes to chronic illness is not just struggling with the depression and anxiety, but feeling like feeling vulnerable
Yes.
in sharing that.
Mhm.
And so everybody knows wants to help, but they don't know how to help. Have do you find is there certain foods, certain situations that will trigger that or make it worse
Yes.
compared to others?
Yes, so I had to find my safe foods. So my safe foods are more easier than telling you my non-safe foods. So
Mhm.
basically, my safe foods right now I'm on a clear puree diet because of how my severity is right now at the moment. But usually my safe food is like toast, butter, turkey bacon, turkey sausage, chicken breast, bland but no seasons, no spice, sweet potato fries, Lay's potato chips, um,
Mhm.
and cola because I always feel like my sugar is low. Like I told him that like I'll feel very weak, like I need that sugar. But
Mhm.
they check my sugar and it's fine, but I'll drink Coca-Cola other than that, and ice cream. But other than that,
Mhm.
that's all I eat. It's not
Mm,
much at all. It's very a short
no.
Yeah.
list, but I do miss steak and I do miss bacon cheeseburgers.
Oh.
S- So, from my understanding, it's you're in a place right now where you're on clear liquids because you're kind of having a flare up, so to speak. So,
Yeah.
is it kind of one of those things where it gets worse and you have to adjust your diet and then kind of let your body heal a little bit, and then you can kind of bring in some of those safe foods once you're feeling better?
That's the goal right now because my liver is inflamed as well because of the gastro I found out. They thought it was because of the tumor I have, but they think it's just everything's from the gastro. So right now, that's the goal and that's the plan is for me to go back onto source food and salads. But right now, they're just concerned and worried because I'm losing weight. And I did have the G-pome pop surgery in January, which is offered for gastroparesis, and that's not offered actually in many places. And basically, what that is when they open the pork valve that connects your stomach and the small intestine so the food can move through more easily, but unfortunately for me, my body is not accepting it at this moment. But they did offer me as well something called gastric pacemaker, which is an implant they implant to your stomach to help contract the muscle movements so the food can push movement through. So that might be in my plan. I'm not sure. They were talking about bringing a doctor from Duke over. So we're gonna see how that goes. But I told them about my birthday, which is in June. I'm gonna be 36. And I'm like, I would love to eat, a burger or something in that nature, for my by
Mhm.
my birthday. And I gave
Mhm.
myself a goal of gaining 11 pounds by then. So that's that's the plan and that's the goal.
Good.
Um, You said something that was really important because it was something that I know I struggled with when I dealt with that whole year of colitis where they couldn't get it in check is your goal of gaining 11 pounds. Do you find that a lot of people don't like they don't understand the that how difficult and it can be just as mentally frustrating to try to gain weight as it is for those that are trying to lose weight.
Yeah, it definitely is because you could be doing everything you're doing as taking medications, taking in your ensures, try to get in your protein in, and you could see just in a month or so, not even a pound. And
Hmm.
that's the most frustrating thing because you're like, what am I doing wrong? But it's not you, it's just the disease itself. And that's when they'll start talking more about, nutrients. Like for me, I'm gonna be seeing a nutritionist now, so that's like a big thing for me because I do need to gain that weight. Like I said, I used to be almost 300 pounds. I was 256 pounds before this disease started affecting my life, and now I'm 144. So I used to, my whole life I was the big girl, you know. So it's just, me always trying to lose weight. And remember that feeling of me always wants to be skinny like everyone else, and I could never lose the weight. And but now it's me being so small and wanting to gain that weight. And it's the same kind of feelings as losing weight. You have that same frustration. No matter if it's losing or gain, it's the same thing as I feel.
Hi, this is Rachel from Spoonful of Strength. My Etsy shop is a chronic illness owned business where I design t shirts, hoodies, mugs, magnets, and more, all with a focus on chronic illness empowerment. Whether you're looking for something cozy, funny, or inspiring, I've got you covered. I also take custom orders because your story deserves to shine. Visit spoonfulofstrength.etsy.com, that's spoonful with 2 L's, and enjoy 25% off your order with the code podcast at checkout. Let's wear our strength with pride, one design at a time. You mentioned something earlier that I wanted to talk about because looking over your Instagram page, I love the fact that you're like very open and you have a lot of videos showing you in the hospital or just at very at times of struggling. And I think that's really brave of you to do that.
Thank
Um,
you.
we've had some people on here with chronic illness that there's not a lot known about it. And there's a struggle sometimes with doctors of getting the treatment that you need in a situation where maybe they don't know enough about your chronic illness or they're putting it onto something else. How have you navigated through doctors who maybe aren't listening or aren't taking it as seriously, knowing that you're living with this day after day and you're not getting to you're not getting the results from the doctors that you hope?
Yes, I actually had a couple of those experiences, a couple of times. So I felt like that because my first team kept pushing me off because this I'm with a whole different team. But my first team I was with was a couple of years when I first got diagnosed. They would kept pushing off and kept pushing on anxiety and depression. They wouldn't listen to me. They kept telling me I need to see a psychiatrist as I was already seeing one. And now with my second team, I had an incident in January with the hospital. I did post on my Instagram where the doctor, I was trying to explain to her how I was feeling, and she smirked in my face. And then the second, another incident where she said it was in my head, and basically that broke me completely down. Um, I was frustrated. I was very emotional because at that moment I did feel like my team wasn't doing enough for me. They weren't listening to me. So I'm like, okay, this is how they must all feel. So I kind of pushed back a little bit away from my team. And so my PCP actually forced me to go to the hospital last week. Um, well, they were going to call a rescue on me because they were concerned, and kind of glad I did go. But ever since it's crazy. Ever since I was in the ER last week and admitted, it seems like they're taking my case a lot more serious. They apologized for what that doctor said to me. They reassured me that it's not in my head. I had all the tests that needs to be done, and they told me I need to take care of myself and not go to my appointments because of a silly doctor that doesn't know my case or knows my condition. But it's just at that moment in time, you're human, and those emotions are running through your mind like, okay, this is how they must all feel because you already sometimes you think about that. But that is definitely a big part. But if you feel like that, I think it's definitely always great to go for a second opinion. Like even so, I am still going out of state for a second opinion to see another doctor for my gastroparesis who actually does the condition itself, and he has some history of working in the Mayo Clinic, which is actually great for people who have gastroparesis to go to if you live close to. Because they know more about condition than some local doctors in our towns because it's a very rare condition and there's not a lot of information that's out there unless you research it or you feel it or you reach out and connect with other people and do your own type of research investigation and put a book together yourself. That's how I truly feel, and that's how what I went through.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have that mindset of, okay, you go for help, and then they push back and make you feel like you're crazy. So then
Yep.
you're not getting the help. So
Yep.
for sure, I'm glad that, I'm not glad that you were pushed into the hospital, but I'm glad that your team ended up rallying around to help you feel a little more comfortable again with them overall.
Yeah, it's sad that I have to be grateful for my primary care because if it wasn't for them, I feel like, this yesterday's appointment wouldn't have went. Like I'm still stuck with it because how I'm taking it as they're just trying to make me comfortable. But it's also they're gonna, they're not giving up. They're gonna try this and this, but the new medication and see if that helps because it's not. So the new medication is an antibiotic. Even though I don't have a bacterial infection, they're explaining to me the side effects of the medication might help with nausea. Because I also posted on my Instagram about the Zofran, which I didn't know many people know, but if you take Zofran and too much of it actually can cause cardiac problems, and I didn't know that. Because with gastroparesis, sometimes your nausea is just so bad where you're just taking the nausea med back to back, and honest to find out that can cause cardiac problems. So that was a big thing I learned as well over the weekend.
So you mentioned earlier that you have two boys.
Yes.
So talk about having a chronic illness while also trying to raise these kids. And I have three boys myself, and I know that it can be difficult to um, to maneuver through chronic illness when you've got kids. How are they doing with the illness, and what's your support system kind of look like in helping you uh, with these two boys?
So basically it's very frustrating sometimes and tiring, because you're doing all the housework and you're cooking dinner and trying to get schoolwork done. And because my husband, he works overnight, so he sleeps until 6 and he gets up and goes to work. So he's gone all night, sleeps all day, but he works. Um, but it's just very tiring, very exhausting. But for them, it's starting to take an emotional toll. They're starting to get sad. They're getting worried. When I came back from the hospital over the weekend, my youngest held me as if he was a grown adult holding a child to put his mom to sleep. Yeah. And
Mm,
as he just held me, I couldn't help but tear up because he's only 5 years old. And, they do see a therapist and everything. So I
oh,
get them
good.
the help for that because I do worry about depression, especially nowadays in young children. A lot of people don't like to talk about it, and they they love me. Like they'll be like, "Mommy, if you're not here, who's taking care of us?" I'll be like, "Daddy will be here for you,"
Hmm.
And when I'm in the doctor, still like, "Who's picking us up?" I'm like, "I'm gonna pick you up, I promise." Like I always have to continue to reassure them that I'm okay. But it's in that time and moment where I'm, sick, and they see me sick, and you see that worry in their little faces. And it's just like it shouldn't be like that, especially they have a whole life ahead of them. And this could be like not to say, but a traumatic, situation for them because they're seeing their mom, who they love so much, sick in pain and crying, shaking, you know, they're gonna worry. But I have a great support system. I have their grandparents, I have my family, cousins, aunts, uncles that are like they're completely always video chat every day. They talk to the kids like we go out. That's one thing I do. I push myself to make sure I do something with my kids every week to make sure, they know, mommy's still good. Mommy's still gonna be able to do stuff, even if it's going to the park for 30 minutes. It's something.
Hmm.
I just love to reinvest the reassurance, of them. Like even if it's a ride to McDonald's, hey, we're going out for a drive. Mommy still can drive. Mommy can still do this because that's one of my biggest fears is I'm not gonna be able to do what I do for my kids in the future.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna have the energy. I'm gonna be weak, and I don't want them to see me like that. I don't want them to take care of me. I want them to live a happy life and not worry about me at all. So that's like
Hmm.
I always try to make them happy. The littlest things. My boys are like so special. The littlest things make them so happy. It could be 50 cents or anything, or just like the littlest compliment. Their whole week is just, they're just special little boys. But I just don't want them to
Hmm.
keep worrying about mommy because mommy's strong, and I always, like I said, the reassurance helps. It's
Yeah.
definitely
I,
something.
yeah. I think I love that you're offering them therapy because I think that's really important. And I'm going to share something with you. I've shared it on the podcast before, but I went through a similar situation as a mom, when you're sick and you don't feel good. And my therapist said to me, he said, "Do you know the gift that you're giving your kids?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, what what am you know?" And he said, "You're giving them the gift of empathy because they are growing up and they are seeing the challenges that you're going through, and you're giving them a special gift that other kids may not have, of being able to be more empathetic towards people who are sick or hurt or different." And that's something that stuck with me for years and years. And so I think that sounds like the way that you treat them, and that you know, offer them, give them the help that they need mentally and all of that, that I think that you'll realize what a gift that you're giving them. So,
You definitely,
yeah.
it's so important, especially nowadays. I always fear that, one day if I do need an NG to, um, I go to their school or something, and they be like, "Why's your mom?" You know, I don't want them to feel like that. Like even their teachers are very supportive of me. We communicate because I'll be like, "Hey, how are they doing in school? How are they feeling emotionally?" Because I was in the hospital, and they'll give me their feedback, like they were good, they were fine, okay, or they'll tell me if they were anything. But you know, it's it's all about being in your kid's life, even if it's good or bad, just to make sure everything is okay. Because they do love you. You are a parent. They're gonna have those feelings even if they're 2, 3, 4, 5 years old.
Yeah.
It's so important to have them just talk to somebody, because like they said, they're little humans. They got feelings. They just don't know how to
Mhm.
express it like us adults.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Earlier in the episode, Rachel and I were talking about self-esteem and the struggles that many of us have as we're navigating through a chronic illness. Um, and and I know we touched a bit on weight loss and weight gain and that. Do you struggle with self-esteem as well? And um, advice to others who may also be having that struggle.
Um, I do struggle with self-esteem because I'll get clothes and a week later or so they'll be baggy on me. Like right now I have smalls on me, and I just bought this. I'm like, it feels so big on me, and I'll look at myself in the mirror, and I'll look at my scars. I'll look how small I am and just how my body looks. And I just dwell on it, and I hate it, to be honest. I don't like it. The goal of getting through this, the goal of gaining weight, the goal of telling myself you're not gonna look like this forever, the goal of telling me my scars they'll fade away eventually, but my scars will also tell a brave story for someone else to help them get through their journey. As they started in the beginning, and it's still a big thing for me right now. I don't like to be looked at. I always like to wear baggy clothes. I I don't when I go out in public, I don't dress how I should have when I do go out. Like I don't take care of myself a lot. And that also comes, with the depression, but it's also because how I look. I'm used to seeing myself not with bones and more fluff, in my body. But the most thing, if someone that is struggling like me with self-esteem because of weight loss or reverse weight gain, the best thing I can say right now for me is just talk to someone as a therapist, and reach out to friends and family and loved ones that you feel comfortable with talking to about, because we might not feel comfortable talking to family that we might be completely comfortable with a therapist. Because me, I'm personally comfortable sometimes talking to complete strangers about what I'm going through than with my family, because I feel they understand more than my family does. So there,
Mhm.
that's that's my best advice I could say right now, because it's definitely a
Yeah.
struggle. And once I get through it, I'll definitely give more advice on it. But we can get through this. It's just one day at a time.
Hmm.
And self-love, that's the big thing, is self-love. You give yourself a compliment, do your nails or something, self-love.
Mhm.
That would definitely help get through self-esteem. Tell yourself you're beautiful. And that's why in my comments on like my page, when I do comment and message, I'll be like, you're how you doing, lovely, or how are you beautiful? Just that compliment just really, because you just never know how a person's feeling,
Yeah.
with
That's what
kindness.
I love about your Instagram page is you're
Thank you.
always
It's
responding
re
back
yeah.
and reaching out to people, and I love that even though you're going through it right now, that you're still spreading love to everyone. Can you tell our listeners where they can follow you on Instagram?
Yes, my Instagram page is Gastroparesis Awareness 2024. My profile picture is always a cute little sloth because that's the Gastroparesis mascot, as we say.
Yeah.
Um, But you could definitely follow there. Everything is public. I'm real person. Nothing's edited. As I video out, upload it. I want people to see the real me. I want people to see my struggles. I do get negative comments and how I deal with those. I just block the people and delete. Don't feed
Mm,
into that stuff. Don't be ashamed to tell your story, and that's my biggest thing, and that's my coping skill is telling my story and getting it out there and helping others and connecting with like people like you guys. Like you guys are doing amazing things, letting people like me that's a regular person from a small town come on a podcast, and I never would thought this would ever happen to me and tell my story. So you guys are amazing. You guys are truly angels because you don't know who could be hearing our stories and you could help, especially when it comes to mental illness. Like someone could be like, oh, she had the guts to talk about that. She don't care. Like she's, I feel that way. Let me connect and let me see what I can do to get help. And that's one of my
yeah.
biggest things about my page. I'm real. This is my life. And let's connect.
But we're normal people too. We're just,
Mhm.
you know,
I
yeah, at
really do. I
least,
just want to help people.
yeah. And I can see that.
I'm fun. I'm colorful.
Yeah,
I'm lovable. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I respect everybody. I love everybody. I respect every culture, religion, no matter what backgrounds, family you come from. I have respect, kindness, and love for you. And that's just it.
Hmm.
And we need more of that in the world, especially in the chronic illness community. I feel invisible and hidden. So as we come together with all our different illnesses and show love and kindness and compassion for each other, it's just going to get better and better and more easier for people to speak on their conditions, I feel. So, like, you
Hmm.
guys are just so important. And thank you. Honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
We wouldn't be doing it without all of our spoonies, though. So you are the
Yeah.
ones that make us look good, so to speak.
Thank you.
Honestly,
Yeah.
Thank you.
you're
Yeah.
the
And
voice of Spoonful of Strength.
yeah.
We're just the navigators.
You guys are
Yeah.
amazing. You guys really are
Uh,
amazing.
we will tag your Instagram page so that people can follow.
Thank
And
you.
I would definitely recommend following your page because it is very full of love. You're always great in commenting back and supporting the people that support you, and it's just a wonderful page. And so definitely want to give Nicole a follow, and just thank you so much for coming on today. It's
Thank
been a
you.
pleasure to say the least.
I appreciate you guys so, so much, and it's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. I know we'll be talking more in the future, and I'll continue my journey with you guys. So
Yep.
I think I will be on this journey together.
Yep. We
Yep.
will be looking
Yep.
forward
Yep.
to hearing that you're getting some good news and getting some good treatment and getting to feeling better.
Thank you so much. I
Yep.
appreciate you both.
Oh my
What
gosh,
a
she's so sweet.
wonderful. Oh my
I loved
gosh.
her so much.
I know. I think we could have talked forever, but
I know.
um
Very, very personable, very easy to talk to.
yeah,
Um,
and
for
that's why I'm
sure.
like her Instagram page is wonderful because every time I respond, she's right back and sharing the love and so even if you don't have gastroparesis, she's a good one to follow. But yeah, I can't imagine, and I have my share of stomach issues, but it's probably one of my most frustrating things, like to not be able to eat and to
Mhm.
constantly be hungry and feel like you can't
Yeah.
give your body the nourishment. And I know that if my eating habits are off or I'm not eating as much, you just don't feel well. And so,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
difficult one.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard also, as she was talking about like the social aspect of, she
Mhm.
just wants to go and enjoy a dinner out with her family. And that's tough. I remember that, that really long year of dealing with them not treating the colitis the way it needed to be. And I just, we go out to eat a lot. That's our, we would have a date night once a week and I didn't want to go, or I would eat soup or, just barely eat. So I wasn't really enjoying it. And the whole time I was nervous about, am I going to make it through dinner
Mhm.
before I start having the I start dealing with the effects of actually trying to eat. Um, or, even if I had stuff to do during the day, I just wouldn't eat. If I had to be out of the house, I wouldn't eat,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I'm hungry, I'm feeling lightheaded, I'm grumpy because I'm hungry and
Yeah.
or grumpy because I'm missing out on all my favorite foods and things like that. So there's a very big social aspect of eating
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
that is really hard to manage when you have a chronic illness that affects your ability to do that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. She's a strong one, I tell you what. She's a warrior if I've ever seen one. But
Yeah,
uh yeah, I really, really enjoyed having her on.
yeah. I'll tell you, every now and then I'm just like, I worry that it starts getting to be too much for you. And I was like, oh, how long are we going to be able to keep doing this? And then we get people like her that comes on and just talks
Yeah.
about how important our platform is. And that's always
Hmm.
what keeps me going. And I'm sure that's what
Yeah.
keeps you going too, of that.
Yeah. There's been times where I've wondered if I can keep going, but there's never been a time where I've said, do I want to keep going? So, what a way to wrap up our 50th episode with a fabulous guest like Nicole. So, we're going to keep moving. We've got another half season yet to go for season 3, and we're so excited with we are so excited about the spoonies we are going to be bringing in for the second half. Next week, we're going to talk in the first part about writing and journaling and how that can help someone with chronic illness. And in the second half of our episode, we're going to welcome in Rebecca. Rebecca is from Australia, and she's going to talk a little bit about her hypermobility spectrum and POTS. And she is actually an author and an advocate as well. So we'll be able to bring her into that conversation as well. So we hope that you have a wonderful week. And we look forward to talking with you again next Tuesday on Spoonful of Strength. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Spoonful of Strength. We hope that you found a little inspiration and maybe even a new perspective to carry with you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit that like button, follow us for more, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And if you're feeling generous, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Your support helps us reach more spoonies just like you.
Until next time, remember to take care of yourself and keep finding strength in your story. Bye for now.
And see you next time on Spoonful of Strength.